What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another week of the Sports Degenerates podcast. So, as always, if this is your guys' first time listening, make sure to listen also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or also Spreaker. And we're also on some social medias. We're on Twitter at the Sports Degens and Instagram at Sports Degenerates Podcast. Then finally, if you guys want to watch the podcast, you guys can watch us on YouTube. So make sure, if you are listening to us, make sure to follow us on all these platforms if you can, and like this episode on any platform that you guys are listening or watching it on. And it just helps us out a ton. But as always, you guys know us. We're just a couple of college students that love listening to sports, watching sports, everything to do with sports. As always, I'm Tyler. Got Matt. How are we doing this week, Matt?
It's been a rough week, man. It's been a rough week. Let's not talk about it.
Why has it been a rough week, huh, buddy?
Well, I got this on my back. Let me turn around here
For those of
the
you that
cameras
are
to see.
For those of you that are listening to us, Matt has lost the bet for the third time in 4 weeks. Yeah, third time in 4 weeks, and
Yeah,
he was
that's
wearing
right.
a Brady jersey because he bet against Tom Brady once again, and the Bucks won the Super Bowl. So Matt is
Yeah.
wearing the Brady jersey again this week, and I get to rep, as always, my home team stuff instead of wearing that god awful Chiefs stuff like I was wearing last week.
Hey, no disrespect to Tom Brady. You can tell everyone, Tyler, I was saying going into the game, it's kind of 50-50. Right? It feels like a 50-50 game.
Yeah.
If it were any other team, I would have said, oh, it's Tom Brady. He's just going to kill him. But how do I not pick the Chiefs? I thought, it's my team. They're the defending champs. Maybe they can do it. And no, they played the worst football I've seen in ever.
Yep.
It was fucking horrible. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, going into the game, we talked about it. I was worried about that pick going with the Bucks. I could have seen Tom Brady. I could have seen the Chiefs winning easily because I mean, look at the Chiefs. They're amazing. I thought there was a really good chance that they were going to be the first team since the 03-04 Patriots to repeat. But again, Brady just does what he does, shows up in the playoffs when it matters the most, and just absolutely dominated. For the record, this was the biggest win that Tom Brady has ever had in the Super Bowl. And even a loss, he's never lost by all that much. And it was also the first time that he threw a touchdown in the first quarter of the Super Bowl. And it was incredible. It really was. It was awesome to watch. I mean, it was good for me because I had some money on it, and I hit pretty good on the Bucks winning that game, so that was pretty nice.
Got some uncut gems magic going.
Yeah, uncut gems. Well, no, not that bad.
Well,
but
no, not at all.
We're saying that because we watched Uncut Gems the other night. But anyway, so it really was a great game, and I want to talk about why the Chiefs lost. We were talking about this earlier. I think the main reason why they lost is because their offensive line was a turnstile.
No doubt. It was the O-line. Mahomes ran for nearly 500 yards, escaping pressure.
Yeah,
I heard that's more than any Bengals running back had this year.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
It really was almost every play, every pass play, which the majority of their plays were pass plays, that Mahomes was scrambling.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Mahomes himself played really well. I think, he was just on a level with Brady on the field. They were both playing phenomenal quarterback, I think. But Mahomes could hit his receivers in the face, and they couldn't hang on to it.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there. My mind goes to the one play where he had somebody chasing him. Mahomes had some defender chasing him. They got his ankle, tripped him up, and he made a parallel to the ground, no feet, no body part touching the ground throw. Absolute perfect throw. The most perfect throw you'll ever see. Dimed his guy, hit his guy square in the face mask.
Yeah.
And just didn't catch it. I mean, how? Put me in, coach. I'll catch that. Oh my gosh.
I mean, I don't know. That's a good point. Yeah, the Chiefs were dropping a bunch of passes, but again, I feel like they didn't drop as many as everybody thought that they did. That might just be me. I may have been watching a completely different game, but I don't know. It felt like to me that they weren't dropping a ton of passes. It was more of, again, like I said, the Bucks were getting pressure on Mahomes, and Mahomes was just forced to improvise, and that kind of screws up your timing and your rhythm with your wide receivers a little bit.
It
But
does, yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm Either way they lost, which is great.
It's unreal. How the Chiefs only scored 9 points. The Chiefs didn't score a touchdown in the
Yeah.
Super Bowl. Um, that's unbelievable. That's gosh, what's the number? It's something like it was 25 games in a row. Mahomes had a passing touchdown, and not a single one to be found here. It's the worst possible timing for an absolute collapse of the Chiefs as
Yep.
a team and you know as a whole. Their defense too wasn't that great. Obviously, they let up 31 points, most of which were in the first half. Tyrann Mathieu got big-headed and tried pissing off Brady, which you should never do because he just plays better. Brady targeted Tyrann Mathieu every time and still hit his receivers. Unreal stuff, man.
Yeah, it was. I think the game would have been much closer if, like I keep going back to, if the Chiefs' offensive line was able to protect a little bit,
Yeah,
because
that was the biggest component. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm talking
because
about other stuff too because I'm pissed, but
of course, yeah,
that
but
was that was big.
I think if they were able to hold up a little bit and actually block the Bucks' defensive line, then it would have been a closer game. I think because the Chiefs would have been able to score more. In my opinion, yeah, they had all those receivers dropping passes and whatnot, but I think if Mahomes would have had more time to throw the ball and his receivers would have had time to get open and actually catch the ball like they normally do. I just think that if that were the case, it would have been a much closer game. And I think it really does all come down to the failure of the defense of the offensive line, because
Yeah.
yeah, the Chiefs defense didn't play great, but but at the end of the day, the Chiefs have an amazing offense, and the Chiefs would have been able to go blow for blow with the Bucks. So
We all know they would have been able to, yeah. And it really does come down to the O line. This game showed how important that is. Uh, saw a lot of people saying basically now Mahomes knows how Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson felt all year long. Dak Prescott too. It's a great point. The Chiefs had a good O line. They ended up with a decent amount of injuries, I think, though, to some of their starters, and
yep,
they just weren't playing well at all in
yeah,
the biggest game of the year.
exactly. I could be wrong, but I think the Chiefs are missing one or two of their starting offensive linemen for the game,
Yeah,
so that certainly doesn't help.
wasn't Eric
But
Fisher one?
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, he tore his Achilles in the AFC Championship.
Yep,
Horrible.
exactly. Exactly. So and I mean he's one of your core offensive linemen.
He really
He's
is.
your left tackle, I'm pretty sure, and your left tackle is the
That's
one
it.
that
Yep.
is
That's it.
your yep, your left tackle is the quarterback's uh blind spot protector. The
Hmm.
backside protector, and that is the center and left tackle, if your quarterback's a right-handed thrower, is they're the two most important positions on that offensive line to keep your quarterback nice and clean. And the fact that he was out, I think, affected them big time, big time.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. And I didn't even really think about that until now. Oh, Eric Fisher was out. Yeah, he was part of the offensive line. He was one of the people they were talking about being out of the game. And I think people don't give Eric Fisher enough credit. Probably he was the number one overall pick for the Chiefs. Stupid number one overall pick, everyone says in the draft. But look how they played without him, though. You know what I mean? I feel like he's been starting for the team since he was drafted, and he's an important piece. He really is. They were hurt bad without him, and I can't wait to have him back next year. Please, oh God,
Yeah.
please. Oh
And
man,
another thing I want to talk about, Matt, is I want to ask your opinion on this. Is a lot of people are giving the referees a lot of crap because of
Mm-hmm.
they were calling a ton of stuff on the Chiefs. Do you think it was more of the referees were just having a blind eye towards the Bucks and were just calling everything on the Chiefs, or do you think it was more the Chiefs shooting themselves in the foot? Because I can tell you right now, I think it was the Chiefs were just shooting themselves in the foot. I don't think people were complaining about the refs. All of the calls against the Chiefs in that game, like they weren't like, oh, come on, how do you call that? I mean, maybe there was one or two, but all the holding
Mm-hmm.
penalties was like, yeah, he's obviously holding the guy, and there's obviously pass interference there and stuff like that. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we watched the game together, and personally, I think it's a little of both, but um, you and me had the same reaction to most calls. A flag came out on the Chiefs, and we'd watch the replay. We're like, yep, that's the right call. So a lot of penalties on the Chiefs' defense, and I guess even some on offense. I think it's mostly the defensive penalties. And I could see where people are like, oh, the refs just threw all the flags at the Chiefs players. But as a Chiefs fan, from an unbiased standpoint, I think you're right. I think the Chiefs just sucked. I think that a lot of those calls were fair. There were a couple that I think were unfair, but to say based on just a couple referee mistakes that they like botched the whole game, no, the Chiefs botched the whole game
Yep,
completely.
I totally
So,
agree. They just shot themselves in the foot almost the entire game. Every time they had a chance, they had a stupid penalty against them. But
mhm.
hey, I think the Chiefs are gonna come back just as strong next year, possibly if not stronger.
Yeah,
We'll see. But I mean, I want to talk about another team that is a super team, almost like the Chiefs and the Nets on the NBA side here.
and they're looking
Um,
weaker now too.
Yes, they are. Yes, they
Yeah,
are. My right now, I'm still pretty confident in this bet that me and you have about that the Nets will not be able to make it to the NBA Finals, or that
yeah.
they'll lose the NBA Finals
That's that
because
ongoing bet we have.
yeah,
We can do one every week, and I can't remember that one at all.
yeah,
But
yeah. That's
yep,
that's the main
yep,
that's the main one that's actually for money. Where the winner
yeah.
of this one gets $10. But
I messed up there.
um, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
But I mean, speaking of the Nets, right now they're 1-3 in the last week.
that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, they've kind of been missing Kevin Durant because of the whole COVID situation that happened.
Hmm.
But still, 1-3, that's not great.
It's not. Yeah, weird situation there, no doubt. Tough deal. In the game against Toronto, 6 days ago now, last Friday,
Yeah,
I think Durant wasn't allowed to start the game. Uh, and then he did come into the game off the bench. And then they're like, nah, you can't be in sometime in the third quarter. And he sent out a tweet that went viral, free me,
yep,
and all that, yada, 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 being a conspiracy theorist like Kyrie and whatnot.
yeah.
Um, and even Harden, maybe. I don't know. They are all nutheads.
they're all weird. Anyway, yeah,
But yeah, KD being out hurts the team. He's their best player. Uh, just Kyrie and Harden together is a great scoring duo, but they struggled this week. 3 straight losses, the third of which was to the Pistons. That hurts.
yes, it
Um,
does.
but they did get that one win yesterday, which was super odd. A defensive win. At 104-94, they beat the Pacers, a decent team.
Yep.
And yeah, Kyrie and James Harden, they looked okay in that game. Um, I know they're not going to be able to do that every night, but once KD comes back, I think they'll be a lot stronger. Certainly hurts that he's out right now. The Nets need him. They really do.
Yes, they do. Now I want to talk about real quick some. I think I saw a stat. Speaking of this defensive win that you were just saying, I don't know if it still holds true at the moment, but I think this stat came out a couple weeks ago that right now, if the season were to end today, the Nets would have the highest offense efficiency rating of any team in NBA history, and also the lowest defensive efficiency rating out of any team in the NBA ever.
That's
Like
what it is.
it, they,
Yep.
would, they would set records for both, which is crazy. And another thing too, I talked about the players not being able to adjust to one another because I was saying they were all ball dominant players. They only need the ball in their hands. They can't get anything done. But I saw this. I think Bleacher Report posted this. I found this super interesting. This was about roughly this. They posted it about a week ago. So again, this could have changed a little bit. But as of a week ago, James Harden had 11.2 assists per game, which was the
Hmm.
number one in the NBA. And there was also a couple quotes that he said. He said, coming to this team, obviously leading the league in scoring the past few years, not many players can just try to switch up their entire game. Not many players can. And then he said, it's not about points for me. It's not about stats for me. It's about getting the win, which that's good. That's something that's good to see if you're a Nets fan, that
Yeah.
he's not going to have this huge head that he's always going to try and want to be ball dominant. So I think that's a good sign for them that they're not all going to try and do their own thing and have a big head. But you can see right now when things aren't going good, there've been already a few signs of the biggest one that could crack and go off. Obviously, in this whole situation is Kyrie,
Hmm.
and you can see Kyrie. You can see Kyrie right now, in when they're not playing that well, kind of getting frustrated. And I saw a video. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago that there was a little bit of shouting between Harden and DeAndre Jordan specifically.
Saw
But
that. Yep.
you can see that if things aren't going well, which is very possible with this team, that things aren't going to go well because of how bad their defense is, that these players could start turning on each other very, very easily. And I think if that happens, it's going to start with Kyrie, and Kyrie is going to screw up the whole chemistry there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Kyrie, we've talked about him plenty of times on the podcast. He's the poison, right?
Yes, he
Um,
is.
it is cool though to see James Harden sort of taking on that lesser role on the team, at least scoring wise, being more of a distributor, leading in assists, getting a bunch of rebounds, kind of their like low scoring triple double guy almost
Yeah,
is what he is night in and night out, which is cool. It's cool to see that. I think that helps the team way more than just um, say him and Kyrie each having 30 plus points and they lose the game by 30, you
yeah,
know, like it could be worse, but it could be better for the Nets. Certainly a lot of things to work out still. Um, it's such an interesting team, such an interesting team, really.
yeah. It really is. It's extremely interesting. Now, this is actually going to bring us to our next bet of the week. Uh, the bet of this week is, because football is over, we can't bet on who's going to win these games. So now this bet is going to be, who do we think out of the Nets players is going to have a better week, Kyrie or Harden? Matt, who do you think is going to have the better week here? I'm going for. Let's see. What one would this be? I think this would be my
Your
fourth out
fourth.
of five bets. Let's see. Who are you going with?
Yeah, so I'm looking through some of the past games here. Okay, there's one, but of the games last week, Kyrie led in scoring in two of them and outscored Harden um, in two. I thought he led in like every game, but oh well. I'm still gonna go with Kyrie. I think
Okay.
he's the better scorer than Harden, and it's kind of where where are we gonna draw that line as to who has the better week? Like if we're talking points, I think it's Kyrie. I'd put him above
let's
Harden
let's go
on the
off of
Nets.
fantasy points, because that
Sure.
fantasy
Okay.
points averages everything in there. So let's go off of fantasy points and we'll go off of that.
Yeah, as long as KD is still out, I don't know when he's supposed to return. I think Kyrie is their main scorer, their go-to guy to shoot the ball, and I think those points are going to carry him to a better week than James Harden.
Okay. Then I'm gonna go with James Harden. Then I think James Harden's gonna have the better week. We'll find out. We'll at exactly this time next week we'll know. We'll look at the stats there. But I want to move on now. I want to touch on the Celtics real quick before we move on to the Bruins for the last 5 minutes. The Celtics are in the same boat as the Nets almost, that they're just completely underperforming. The Celtics overall record now is down to 12-11. They're almost a 500 team when they started this season as being, I think, the second seed in the East after the
So
first few games. They're 2-5 in the last 7 games. They had a horrendous West Coast road trip. They lost to the Sun. Excuse me. They lost to the Suns. They lost to the Kings. It's pathetic. as I said last week, I do not understand what is wrong with this team. Uh, they need a big man. Uh, yes, they haven't been healthy, but I think one of the number one things right now is Kemba is just not isn't a huge slump. I'm wondering if it's a slump or he's kind of or he's started to fall off a little bit because of the injuries that he's had, and it really worries me on how just the Celtics are performing. And it really makes me worried that maybe a trade for somebody, whoever it may be, isn't going to help them. I think the only thing that might really help them is possibly trading Kemba for Bradley Beal or something like that, but I don't think that's going to happen. And the whole thing, I'm really worried about the Celtics right now. And I think this season right now, the Celtics are absolute frauds.
Frauds, man. I remember a week ago, I think you tossed that word out at one point and kind of took it back, like, yeah, that's all right. It was
Yeah.
just a loss to the Kings. They'll bounce back, and I guess they haven't really. They were able to beat the Clippers last Friday, which was cool, but haven't won since. We saw them lose to Phoenix together. We saw them lose to Utah, which, respect to Utah, they're the best team in the league
Yeah.
right now. Maybe you could argue the Lakers are a bit better, but record-wise, Utah is the best. Still, yeah, Celtics 2-5 in their last 7 games. I'll take it a step further. They're 4-8 in their last 12.
Yeah.
After starting 8-3. Yeah, not that good. It seems like I don't want to call it the Celtics effect, but when a big player comes in like Gordon Hayward and now Kemba, they're a big scorer on a smaller team, and then they come to Boston where they don't get the ball as much and they just don't do as well purely with other stars on the team. It's almost like Harden scoring like 35 a game in Houston and now only 20 a game in Brooklyn, but
Yeah.
he's still playing good at least. I don't know what's up with Kemba.
Yeah. I'd argue that it's less of they can't score with the like being on the team with other scorers, and more of
Yeah.
the Celtics have been having bad luck because you get Hayward and he gets injured all of a sudden. Kemba was great the first half of last season. Then he injured himself. He had the I think it was the knee injury, I think it was, and you thought he was going to be great coming into the playoffs and because they had a bunch of time obviously with the COVID stuff, and he got a stem cell. No, sorry, no. He came back and he looked good the first like few games, and then the second round, someone accidentally bumped his knee, and
Mm-hmm.
since then he's been having a problem. Then to begin this season, he had the stem cell injection, and just since coming back, he just hasn't looked the same. And it's really it's worrying me that Kemba now those injuries might be dropping off. I mean, he's a small guard. You've seen it stuff like this in the past, but I don't know. We'll see. I do want to say though, I have said in the past, like last year during the playoffs, I was saying I wasn't super hard on the Celtics. And I said that if they underperform this next season or don't get better this next season, I'm going to start getting mad at the Celtics. And here I am. I'm holding up that word because I'm going to say right now, if the Celtics cannot make at least the Eastern Conference Finals this year, then something needs to change. Something 100% needs to change. And I don't know what that is, but if I'm Danny Ainge, I blow up most of this team besides uh, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and that's my opinion. If they can't do that, but I
Yeah.
do want to move on real quick. I do want to move on. Spend the last five-ish minutes here on a team that the other Boston team that almost have nothing to worry about right now is the Bruins. We've been
Mm-hmm.
talking about the Bruins now for the past, I think, 3 weeks. I want to say 3 or 4 weeks, and they have just been almost getting progressively better and better. The Bruins right now are 8-0-1 in their last 9 games, just looking absolutely unstoppable. They won another one last night in overtime against the Rangers. They have another one coming up tonight against the Rangers, and everything's coming together for them. They're playing good defense. They're getting some scoring, obviously on the first line. They're getting some scoring on their other lines, which is fantastic to see. And that's what I've been complaining about in the past. That the Bruins historically have been, in the past few years now, have been a one-line team, pretty much a one-line team that they struggle to find scoring in their other lines. But they're finding that now. They're finding that now. Like I said, their defense has been playing a lot better than their past few years. All their defensive lines have been playing better than the last few years, and it's great to see. Obviously, you still have to worry about the Caps in our division here, but you already beat them. I would say the number one thing that I'm worried about with the Bruins right now is that you can't consistently keep winning this way. You can't consistently keep winning in overtime, and having comeback wins, because eventually some of these they're not going to go your way. You have to try. Again, I'm not going to criticize them that much because they're playing fantastic, but
Mhm.
you do have to try and start winning in regulation, because once you get into overtime, that's when it gets a little questionable. Yeah, you still get a point for going into overtime, and that's get it to, in the NHL, you take points where you can get them, especially with this new format. But I want to start seeing them, instead of getting behind, I want to start seeing them play from ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. They're off to a great start this year. They're the most exciting team in Boston right now,
They
honestly.
are.
Um, yeah, overall 9 wins, 1 loss, 2 overtime losses. It is really nice to see, as many times as they've gone to overtime, they only have the 2 overtime losses, and I think
Yep.
those were many games back now at this point.
Yeah, it was.
Um, yeah, they're on a good win streak right now. Um, but certainly there are those small concerns. Can't keep going into overtime. I honestly don't have too much to add to it. I think they're playing, awesome as a team right now. I'd love to see it continue, and like you said, playing from ahead a bit more. That would make them look even more scary
Hmm.
than they already are. Could be another good year in the making for the Bruins.
Yeah, and the only other thing that I will say that kind of worries me about how the Bruins are doing, yeah, they're playing fantastic. Say they continue the way that they're going, and let's say they end with the President's Trophy, the best record in the league. Historically, the Bruins, and historically the President's Trophy in general almost is cursed. That
Yeah.
worries me because the Bruins, I've seen it time and time again in the past. The Bruins have a fantastic regular season, one of the best regular season games. Their perfection line is unreal. And then come the playoffs, they fall on their faces. And that's what I'm worried about. I mean, you saw it. You saw it last year. The Bruins had the best record in the league last year. Again, you could possibly contribute it to having the time off because of COVID, but they ended up losing. And I think the second round, I want to say it was, yeah, second round, first or second round, I can't remember. Sorry, but you saw that, and then against St. Louis, they lost Game 7, Stanley Cup Finals. I don't want any more Bruins heartbreak. I want to see them win again. It's overdue. It's been 10 years since the last one, which is
Mm,
crazy. It's already been 10 years,
that
but
is wild. It doesn't feel like it.
yeah. But we'll see. Like I said, hopefully they can keep it up. I'm just a little worried about the whole overtime thing. Almost all their wins being in overtime. I want to see them start playing from ahead. But we'll see. Who knows what'll happen? But that'll do it for this episode, guys. We had a fun week this week. Hopefully, we'll see if I can win my fourth. Yeah, my third bet in 4 weeks. We'll see what happens, guys.
Yeah,
But
I
again,
didn't have a fun week though. We had
again,
a fun week now. Sorry, great podcast though.
it
Right.
was. Thank you guys so much again for listening to us. Again, make sure to follow us on social medias, like this episode, and also follow us on all social medias. So we'll see you guys next week. Have a good night.